Willadean Pickett, the earliest reported unsolved missing case in Empire, Alabama. Willadean went missing at the age of 17 from her Empire home. Paula Conner. An explosion as she was leaving the parking lot of People's Hospital in Jasper ripped the truck she was driving apart, killing her. Paula had recently been through an ugly divorce from Don Conner. Conner's son has stated that his mother was driving his grandfather's truck because her ex-husband had placed sugar in the gas tank of her own car, rendering it inoperable. No charges were ever filed. David Martin and John McHan were last seen by David's sister in Jasper. They said they were going to Nauvoo to sell some jeans to a clothing store for McHan's wife. Neither returned. 15 days later, David's blue 1971 Dodge Charger was found by a mine security guard at the strip pit near Jagger Road. The car had been burned twice and reportedly shot. The keys were still in the ignition and so were the jeans, but other personal items and the car's tag were missing. A piece of blood-stained glass was found nearby. Extensive searching was conducted, including use of out-of-state divers who explored the shaft but only turned up bags of trash. Foul play is suspected, but no arrests have ever been made. Becky Ferguson. She was supposed to visit a cousin in Birmingham, but never made it. Her Cadillac was found on Highway 257 near Curry 2 days later, with 2 holes from shotgun fire in it. Jewelry was found on the floor of the car and in her garage floor. Carrie Lawson received a late-night call that a relative was ill and she needed to come to the hospital. She was abducted at gunpoint by a masked man as her and her husband Earl Lawson were getting into their Ford Explorer. A $300,000 ransom was demanded and paid after a first attempt was botched by local police presence. Carrie was never returned and has not been heard from since September 12th. Jerry Bland was eventually identified as the one demanding the ransom, but allegedly killed himself before authorities could arrest him. Most of the ransom money was found in his attic. An accomplice, Karen McPherson, who is serving a life sentence for her part in Carrie's abduction, admitted to placing the call to lure Carrie from her home and watched over her for the first 2 days. Larry Blevins, last seen at the Allstate Club on US 78. Larry called his parents from the club and asked for a ride home, but called again later and said he had found a ride. Witnesses indicate he was last seen in the presence of at least one person from Empire, Alabama. Larry was disabled and took medication and is thought to be the victim of a robbery gone wrong. James McAnnally worked as a trucking manager for a construction company in Birmingham. He was killed when a bomb on his Murray riding lawnmower exploded. His dog was also injured in the blast and died a few days later. A few weeks afterwards, a second bomb was discovered by a mechanic hidden under his wife's truck. Although ruled a homicide, no arrests have ever been made. Bridgette Bonham. Bridgette was last seen by her boyfriend, who said that they had been chased into the woods and got separated. Many tips have been received that her boyfriend was violent and abusive, and that he was acting strange in the days between the alleged chase in the woods and her being reported missing. Her body was found a month later in a creek. Destiny Aldridge. 17-year-old Destiny Aldridge was reported missing by her family on October 17, 2008, 2 days after their last contact with her. 11 days later, her body was found in Fayette County with a gunshot wound to the head. The same day her family reported her missing, her boyfriend, Jason Sparks, died in Mississippi, allegedly a suicide. Sparks was in the company of a female juvenile when he allegedly killed himself, and during questioning that girl, who was Destiny's best friend, she led authorities to Destiny's body. Destiny's death was ruled a homicide, and in 2010, authorities recovered what they believed to be the murder weapon, but no charges have ever been filed. Corey Smith left his home in Jasper with his uncle, who dropped him off at the house of a man that owed him money. He has not been seen again, and foul play is suspected. Investigators have several persons of interest in mind, but need more information to move forward with the case. Tabitha Franklin. 28-year-old Tabby was given a ride from a friend's house by an abusive ex-boyfriend. He alleges that he dropped her off where he worked in Hueytown, but she has never been seen again. Almost 5 years after she went missing, the Cullman County Sheriff's Department secured a search warrant to dig up a concrete porch at a house where she previously lived. Additional search efforts over the years have involved sending divers deep beneath Smith Lake, use of ground-penetrating radar, and other multi-agency efforts. Today, Tabby's 2 children are grown and have children of their own, and the quest for answers in their mother's disappearance continues. Erik Ruiz left his pregnant girlfriend so she could buy groceries and put minutes on his phone, but never returned. After a few days, his phone was discovered in a wooded area of Marion County, and other belongings were later discovered in Lamar County. His family maintained that leaving was uncharacteristic for him, and he was excited about having a little boy soon. Investigators have indicated they believe he met with foul play, but no new developments have come up, and no arrests have been made. James Lowe. At home in Warrior and recovering from a recent stroke, Lowe left to walk his dog nearby. Eventually the dog came home, but James never returned. Adam Myers was killed by a hit-and-run driver and left behind, roughly a mile from Walker County Baptist Medical Center. No arrests or charges have been filed, and the only information the family has been told is that the vehicle that hit Myers was a gray Nissan. James Wall may have been in a violent altercation before his disappearance. He was last seen at his home in Double Springs and may have been spotted near Houston, Alabama, within the Bankhead National Forest sometime afterwards, but he has not been seen or heard from since. Eric Cates and Gypsy. Their bodies were found by a turkey hunter in his burned-up S10 pickup behind the former Empire School. Erik was last seen at the Blue Store around closing time the night before and was going to a cookout that night. Multiple people are reported to have been present when a fight broke out between Erik and Randy Hicks, leading to Erik being wounded and then burned alive. Randy and another man reported by many to have been there, Buddy Gann, are now deceased, and the Attorney General's office is investigating the case. Andrew Setliff. Last seen in his front yard, he was later spotted on a game camera walking in a wooded area nearby. Setliff left his wallet and cell phone behind, and a multi-agency search effort turned up no clues. The Walker County Sheriff's Department has expressed doubt that foul play is involved, but Setliff's family states it would be out of character for him to just leave, and he has not been seen or heard from since. Nicholas Hawkins was joyriding with 3 others, Joshua Reese, Corey Conner, and Danny Jarvis, when an argument occurred between Hawkins and Reese. While Reese went inside to retrieve blankets, Hawkins called his mother and told her he was worried that Reese was going to hurt him. When Reese returned to the vehicle, the argument continued and Hawkins attempted to run. Reese shot Hawkins in the back with a shotgun and then hit him in the head with the butt of the weapon, killing him. Reese, Conner, and Jarvis then wrapped Hawkins' body in a blanket, stuffed it in a duffel bag, and put it in the trunk. They then drove to an illegal trash dump and hid Hawkins' body in the woods. Reese's accomplices turned on him, and Hawkins' body was recovered along with the murder weapon and other evidence found in the vehicle. In all, 6 people were charged in the case. Under a plea deal, Reese pled guilty to murder and was sentenced to 30 years. Conner and Jarvis pled guilty to abuse of a corpse and hindering prosecution and were sentenced to 15 years. Terry Roberts. Terry was initially reported as missing by family, who noted that he left his cell phone and car at his Empire home, but was nowhere to be found. Eventually, his body was discovered under an old mattress nearby. Kayla and James Harris, Terry's stepchildren, were charged with his murder. Jacob Orr, Kayla's boyfriend, was charged with hindering prosecution. Over 4 years later, the 3 have yet to be prosecuted. Another person apparently present when Roberts was attacked claimed to be sleeping in the mobile home and was unaware. She has not been charged. Randy Hicks. After deciding to reveal the events and participants behind Eric Cates' murder, Randy attended a party with friends after he was released from the county jail. When sheriff's deputies arrived searching for a stolen vehicle, Randy and several others ran into the woods behind the house. His brother found his badly decomposed body 19 days later in a ravine behind that house. Since his death, some have claimed to have seen Randy near the location the following day, and he appeared to be looking for something on the ground. At least one person present when law enforcement showed up was reported to have had some of Randy's belongings that he left behind when he ran into the woods, but those belongings were on his body when he was found later. Despite these circumstances, Randy's death was ruled accidental and the case was closed. Janell Massey. She was last seen near the Chevron station at the Highway 5 and Highway 195 split. Family members report being told she was later seen in the Gypsy area, but she has not been seen or heard from since. Dustin Turner and Jennifer Phillips. The couple went missing from their home in Quinton on September 14th and were found a few weeks later in shallow graves in nearby West Jefferson. Investigators say the couple was targeted by people who were close to them, and they were both acquainted with people in Empire and East Walker County. Justin Denny. Justin was apparently a party to a shootout at another location and was hit when a bullet passed through the vehicle he was in. The shootout may have been related to Justin's West Jefferson trailer being burned up on November 3rd. He died shortly afterwards and was found where the vehicle he was in stopped along Coon Creek Road. Harvey Mickey Kilgore. Last seen at the Natural Bridge Motel. His body was found on the side of the road, wrapped in carpet. Dustin Alexander was beaten and left for dead in his grandmother's driveway. He died from his injuries a few days later. His family reports there are no updates on the case, and no one has ever been charged. Jessica Hamby. After leaving a detox facility with another woman, Jessica traveled to a location near Hamilton, Alabama to stay with a friend. Throughout the night, she messaged people trying to find a ride to her drug dealer in Red Bay, Alabama. She reportedly left the house on foot at daybreak the next morning and has not been seen or heard from since. Amy Hunter. Amy left her mother's house to meet with a married man she had been seeing. They spent the night together in an abandoned trailer near her mother's house, but got into an argument at some point, and Amy allegedly left on foot going home. She never made it. She was reported missing on February 3rd by her mother. On the night of February 6th, a railroad engineer found Amy's badly beaten body along the railroad tracks outside Parrish. Several persons of interest that were at or around the location have been questioned, but charges have never been filed. Maxine Bieberbach. Last seen on Empire Road, where she reportedly ran into the woods and never returned. She had told family members that she was checking into a rehabilitation facility and would be out of touch for some time, but never made it to that facility or contacted her family, which led to her being reported as missing. Max received notoriety for being the poster child for then-candidate for sheriff Nick Smith's Mercy Project while he was chief of police at Cordova. Terrell Sanford. His mother's red Grand Am was found abandoned in a field on Highway 5. The keys were in the car. When the trunk was opened, Sanford's body was found inside. A video was circulated by the sheriff's department asking the public to help identify two people who may have been the last ones to see Sanford alive at a nearby store. Although positive identification of those people was made, the case was apparently ruled an overdose by the sheriff's department and closed. Jonathan Andrews was found deceased in his home just outside of Jasper. John was handicapped and disabled with an issue that rendered one hand unusable, but was discovered with a bent needle in his arm. He had a roommate at the time who was the son of a former police chief and has had several run-ins with the law. There were no other signs of drug use or paraphernalia in the house, and John's toxicology came back negative. John's house had been ransacked and his antique car stolen, along with many other items. His phone was also missing, but soon led law enforcement to a person of interest, a friend of John's roommate who began posting the stolen items for sale on Facebook using John's account. No murder charges have been filed and no autopsy was performed. A year later, the roommate's friend would come up again in the case of another mysterious death in Walker County, Hayden Mayberry. Jeremy Thompson. His common-law wife reported that he had been robbed, hit over the head and killed, and his body had been dumped. She failed to show up for several polygraph appointments or participate in several interviews about what happened. According to the sheriff's department, she went with him the day before he went missing to have his disability payments go to her. Lonnie Taylor. 78-year-old Lonnie Taylor lived in the Elderly Village Apartments in Jasper and was known to walk from there to Walmart and his doctor's office. He had recently experienced episodes of confusion. Matthew Quinn, was run over by a vehicle while walking on US 78 early Halloween morning. Police questioned the man in connection with the case, but did not arrest him. But tips indicate that man claimed to have wrecked his vehicle on the way to work that same day. To date, no charges have been filed in connection to Quinn's death. Hayden Mayberry. Hayden went missing from a shared residence in November 2019. 3 persons of interest were questioned, and 1 arrest was made for providing false information to investigators before Hayden's body was found in the wood line along the street he lived on. Investigators determined that Hayden committed suicide by probable hanging, despite admitting there was information indicating foul play. Nolan Watson reportedly left his home in the area of West Jefferson to burglarize a vacant home next door and never returned. Some of his belongings were discovered in the woods surrounding the house, but subsequent searches of the area have not yet provided any clues to his whereabouts. Robert Leith, last seen alive 5 days prior in downtown Cordova. Leith's nude body was found in the waters of Cane Creek by fishermen. Initial reports from the Walker County coroner were that his death appeared to be an accidental drowning. C.J. Wilkinson. He last contacted his mother that afternoon, but did not show up for work that day. He was last known to be on Calico Road in Brilliant, Alabama, where his phone and boots were later discovered under a tree. CJ was known to frequent areas nearby, including Fayette and Hamilton. An extensive multi-agency search effort has yet discovered any clues to CJ's whereabouts. The victims mentioned in this video are just a small percentage of the victims in this region. Some of the families do not want publicity for various reasons, and you may never even hear about some of them. Join us as we explore these and other cases and help us raise awareness of these incidents and bring these victims justice.